As a 20 to 30-year-old, you are offered the chance to live rent-free in a retirement or nursing home with the caveat that you must make an effort to spend at least a few hours/day with the other residents, sharing meals, hanging out, etc. Would you take this opportunity, and why or why not?
The Netherlands has this exact scheme for students.
I would absolutely do this while in grad school. Sometimes just talking to another human about absolutely anything other than school would be amazing. Plus, as a grad student, when you have a chance to explain your work or research to someone else, you have an opportunity to see holes in it that you might not have noticed with your own tunnel vision. Additional bonus if you are a business student, and can ask around the place when you have a business idea to see if it would work or be needed. Reality is that the retiring population is the largest demographic and therefore your largest potential customer base.
I've spent the better half of the year sat in my room alone studying. I'd love for something like this for all the reasons you outlined.
Honestly, I think that kind of living situation would be good for most people's mental health.
No, I wouldn't. My job can be fairly demanding, and I like my free time for working on my hobbies or relaxing. I'm a bit of an introvert, and I honestly don't have much in common with the elderly. Not to mention, a room in a nursing home isn't the sort of place I want to live either, regardless of whether or not it's free. Not only is my lifestyle not exactly compatible with the setting, but I'm afraid it might bother the other residents. I got nothing against old people, I just don't want to live in a community of nothing but old people.
Greater than not to mention, a room in a nursing home isn't the sort of place I want to live either, regardless of whether or not it's free. Yeah, hospitals and nursing homes all seem to go for the same depressing, impersonal decor. Very beige, white and sometimes teal. I'm sure a lot of that is for practical reasons, but I wonder how much is just because that's what a hospital setting is supposed to look like. You'd think in a nursing home, where people are expected to live long-term, things could look a bit less clinical.
My maternal grandmother lived in an old office-style building that they had converted into a retirement home. There were about 15 residents, and they all had their own little apartment. It had a kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and little sitting area. Downstairs was a common room/dining room, where they would have activities, and if they didn't feel like cooking, could eat. It was honestly some of the best food I've ever had, so we always loved going to visit around the meal time. My paternal grandmother lived in a more typical rest home, but they worked really hard to make it not feel like one. They took really good care of her there.
As long as I was in a section with mentally sound people, being around people battling dementia and Alzheimer's would be too much for me to deal with.
I agree. Many people with dementia and Alzheimer's can be very aggressive. It's a fairly natural reaction to waking up every day and not knowing where you are, who you are, and who all of the people around you are. The functional-minded, frail people would definitely benefit from it. Edit. I would like to add due to some comments. Absolutely not all Alzheimer's patients are aggressive, or aggressive all of the time. I personally don't have the fortitude to care for people with Alzheimer's on a daily basis. I have lost 2 family members to it, and I know how difficult and heartbreaking it can be to deal with. I did it for them, I could not do it again, unless it was family.
Funny, I spent 1 year as an intern working on a psychogeriatric ward. Among the 15 people living there was exactly one person who would be verbally aggressive if he didn't get his way. Also, people with dementia benefit just as much if not more from human interaction. No, most cannot carry a proper conversation, but just being there, talking to them, holding their hand, it means the world to them, even if they cannot express it.
As a PCA in a hospital, I always focused heavily on the memory patients we would get. Most of them didn't have visitors and would need someone to sit with them through the night in case they tried to leave their room. I would sit and just talk to them. Encourage them. I got a nonverbal person to talk to me just by talking one-sided for 3 nights straight. They hadn't talked to anyone else in the 40 days they were hospitalized. They are confused souls who have been dealt a horrible hand late in life. I wanted to try and give them as much genuine human interaction as possible. Also, just a note, barely any PICAs/nurses are as kind and understanding. If you have a relative with memory issues, always have someone accompany them during their hospital stay. A lot of them are treated less than human. They're abused and neglected because others don't want to deal with them. I've seen it firsthand. Edit, wow, 8 awards? Thank you, but I truly don't deserve it.
My grandmother is in a memory care facility. My grandfather died a year ago. They were living in adjoining rooms. She asks every day where he went. Otherwise, she barely remembers her own children. I am not sure if anyone has told her about my grandfather's death. Thankfully, one of her children visits her once a week. Although maybe she could use more. Unfortunately, like I said, she has no idea who the person sitting with her is. You could think of the few hours per day as a really easy part-time job that pays for your housing.
Eating dinner with them would be great. It would count as time spent with them and you wouldn't have to prepare food. I'd try to get them into playing video games. That would be awesome.
Fun fact, the Nintendo Wii was very popular in nursing homes as it allowed seniors access to low-impact exercise. Many of these facilities saw general increases in sleep quality, appetite, general health, and was a great way for them to socialize.
My dad is in his 70s and he does Wii yoga almost every day. He used to take classes at the rec, but obviously hasn't been able to during the pandemic, and the Wii Fit stuff has been a lifesaver.
Wow, will make sure to keep my Wii for when I'm that old or when my parents are.
Don't forget to remove the batteries from your Wiimotes, Fit board, and other accessories if putting into long-time storage. The acid corroded my aunt's board and she had a very hard time finding a new board for her setup.
Homes are full of old ladies who have decades of experience with crafts, so live in knitting support. Hell yes. You'd have to have the windows open all the time to keep the care home smell at bay though.
Same here. It'd be fun to have a craft circle with them and listen to the gossip while learning something new.
I wonder if they have cliques like high school.
Sometimes they do, and it's really fucking irritating, and also mildly funny because of how petty and immature it is. Debbie, Helen, Margaret, and Evelyn don't like Dorothy anymore cause she quit the dining committee? Or she had a different opinion on something? Well, now Dorothy has to sit at a different table in the dining room. True story from working as a waitress in an assisted living during high school.
My grandparents live in an old folks' home. This absolutely happens. For example, my grandmother says there is a lady there that bring up her private high school education like it makes her better than everyone else. This woman is with it mentally. She is just under the delusion that her parents having money 70 years ago makes you a cut above everyone else. It's bonkers.
I actually did this in my mid-20s. I was a chef by trade at the time. I got the head chef gig at a community, but it was 2 hours from home. They told me there was one open in my town, but it didn't work out that way. It was great money and I was newly married. To sweeten the deal and not lose me, they offered me a furnished room in the building and it was only Monday through Thursday. Some of the best times of my 20s were had there. We bowling every night, big dinners, movie nights. The whole 9 yards. I enjoyed it immensely and was almost sad when the opening became available in my hometown. I never edit these and usually thank people individually if I get awards, not possible now, so thanks everyone, I appreciate you.
Wholesome as fuck, dude.
Fuck yeah, that's like a tall glass of cold milk kind of wholesome.
What if you're lactose intolerant?
What are you doing in the Milky Way galaxy if you're lactose intolerant?
I hope he's not galactose intolerant too. Love the people saying they can. Guess you have never been in a nursing home. All the death and sickness always around. The poor people with dementia or Alzheimer's and the behaviors that come with it. Not a chance would anyone want to live that long there by their choice.
I'm actually surprised that you're the first person to bring this up. While I think there are a ton of great reasons to build intergenerational communities, these are facts that should be considered.
Whoa. This is very dependent on the home. The place my nana was at had 3 levels of care. The first was assisted living. They have like an apartment with people on hand to help if needed. Then they have another building when you need daily care and someone to cook for you, bathe you but are still all there mentally. They also had a 3rd type of accommodation somewhere else for people with dementia. Another place we looked at for her had 2 blocks, one for people with dementia, the other without, so I know this place wasn't a one-off. Not all retirement homes are death and gloom. Many residents actually find they are happier as they have a lot more social contact.
Oh, definitely. It really depends on where you go and who you spend your time with while you are there. There's also a distinction between nursing home and retirement home. You will probably encounter more death at a nursing home regardless of the unit you are in.
People who don't know what life in a retirement home is like.
Depends on if you differentiate between a retirement home and a nursing home. My dialect does. Retirement homes are basically just assisted living, plenty bearable, while nursing homes are the not so great places people go basically to die.
Hospice palliative care. Nursing home assisted living. Retirement home age-restricted community with some elective services.
In most of the US, a nursing home is just a layman's term for a skilled nursing facility. Independent living and assisted living. Some states designate residential care or a few other terms in place of L, are under the umbrella of retirement living.